Greetings, my friends. Today we're going to make some really fun and easy cane. And it's a monochromatic cane. And the chroma in question, or color, is going to be the turquoise with black and white, with three blends. A simple black and white, a turquoise and white, and a black, turquoise, and white. And these are made through the Skinner blend method, two-part, two-part, three-part. So I'm going to take these and cut each of them in half this way, and we're going to roll one half up of each into a jelly roll and the other half into a fan fold. And monochromatic is fun because when you're just working with one color in different gradations, it really allows you to work on your design and the elements of your design and proportion and scale. So we're going to do that with our turquoise, black, and white. And as you know, I don't usually do the blends in this class because it's just too boring to watch for you guys. So here's my blend. I used half of it for this already, and this is the other half of it. See how it made that navy and all those different gradations? It's just really cool what blends can do. So already it doesn't even look monochromatic anymore. It looks like I've got the navy and the teal and the turquoise, but that's all done just with turquoise, black, and white. So I really like that idea. So you've got a sheet of your blend that you've made, and you fold it in half, long and skinny, and you put it through your machine one more time, and I'll do that. That's pretty torturous, isn't it? That sound that you just heard, that I just let you hear the one time, is my clay machine. I have a motor on it. And I highly recommend that you use a motor on your machine if you're going to do a lot of claying, because it really saves your hands. It wasn't super costly, but I did save up for it, and it's been a huge gift for me to have one. So I've got the motor on there, I've made my blend, and this last one will be another jelly roll. So we end up with jelly roll and fan fold of each one. And I'm putting the white part in the center of this jelly roll. So in addition to our three fan folds and our three jelly rolls, I've made some little fill extras. So while you've got your colors out, and you know you're doing all this prep, it's good to get yourself hooked up with stuff that you're going to need a little bit later. And what we're going to need during the caning process is some sheets. So this is made on a number 4 setting, and that's the pure color by itself before I blended it. Then I made a black and a white, and those are each done on a number 5 setting. And those are really thin, and they're a pain to work with. But these kind of wraps are just going to be dividing pieces of cane for you. They're not going to be big design elements, and that's why you make them real thin, because you don't want them to be big design elements. You want them to be accenting the ones that you've made here. And in addition to that, I took the leftovers of each color and made myself a few logs. And what I do with these is I've got them ready to make into small triangle fill, round fill, flat fill. And that way, as I'm kind of having fun with my design, these are already sitting by and I can just grab them. So it seems like a lot of prep work. It did take some time. But the reason I'm recommending this is because I probably have just said this over and over again, but the flow of your enjoyment is really what this is all about. It's not about being the most fantastic caner or about creating objects. It's about creating joy and enjoyment for yourself. So that's the reason I make these suggestions. As I kick back, I put on some music, I make these blends, I make the fill, I make the sheets. And that way, when I go to play and I go to express myself and I go to build my cane, I'm not having to stop and do this labor. So I highly recommend that. Not everyone's going to want to do it, and that's up to you. So we begin to build our cane. So here's my 6 inches of this cane that's fan folded, and I'm going to cut it in half. And to 1/2 I'm going to add some lines. So that's why we've got that thin material over there, those thin sheets that we made. And those are strictly for the purpose of adding lines to canes wherever we want to. So I'm going to cut down right about to the darkest blue. So I'm going to drop this line in so we can start going down in this direction a little bit with our color. And I'm going to add some black lines to it too. Now this can be cut off flush at the top, or it can be brought over to the side in case you want to kind of make a curly thing. With this one we're going to cut it off, but later on you'll see in our design we'll let them curl over, and they really give an interesting effect to your cane too. They give a wavy kind of organic quality to it that you might like. We've just created this look. So I'm going to go in the side with a black one, and then I think I'll probably quit working with this one because it's just, you know, as I said, it's very soft. So we don't want to tear it up too much. So that leaves us with the triangle with a little blue line and a little black line, and that's fine for now. So here's one of our gray ones. I really love this material. I think it's so interesting looking. So I want to do a lot with this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some grooves in the top of this before I even alter it, kind of every other space. And into those I'm going to drop a log of our blue. So we're going to keep bringing in the blue wherever we want to, making sure that there's plenty of it. It's the key color here, the one that we're really, you know, focusing on. I'll trim this off so I can show you what you've got. You've got this gray thing with some blue spots in the top, and we're going to bring it together and force it into a triangle. So I love this. I think it looks great, and this is a perfect opportunity for us to bring our blue over to one side. Now I don't recommend wrapping it all the way over because it makes lines that end up all looking like stars in your design, or like, you know, Chrysler symbols or something. So we're going to take a sheet and just put it over half of this, and you'll see how it just creates a nice curved line rather than creating star shapes. Okay, that's good for that one, and I'm only going to take this one out to 3 inches for now because I'm probably going to cut it again in a minute and take it to 6 inches. So now for our black and white Skinner Blend jelly roll. We're going to go ahead and wrap it. We're going to cut it in half. And I'm going to pinch this back together again. So now we have the gray down in the center of this one. And this looks really cool. And this is almost 6 inches because I've been kind of overworking this one. So we'll go ahead and take this out to 6 inches after we've done this to it, okay? So I'm making kind of a petally shape here. This cane isn't really floral, but this shape is kind of going to be petally. So I've taken this out to 6 inches. I'm going to cut it in half, and I've got these two little guys. They're really cute, and I'm going to set them side by side. Okay, and into this channel I'm going to place another one. And I'm going to drop it in. So now we have one of these. And this is going to really bring a lot of interest to our final cane. It's just a really cool little element. We're going to throw it in kind of toward the end so it won't get over reduced, okay? So now we're working with our last two, our blue ones. And you'll see I've come in closer because you're starting to kind of see the detail of these canes now a little bit more. And this one is going to be cut in half and go side by side so that we can make some wavy lines in it. So we need a little width on it, okay? So I'm going to take that and I'm going to make sure I've got the 3 inches. It's compressed into a square for me. I did that off camera because that's pretty boring to watch. And I'll cut it in half. And now I can put it back together. And I've got a wider piece of material to work with. A pretty good bubble there. May as well take that out of there. It won't go away by itself. Okay, now into this I want to put a wavy line, and that's why I've got that extra black, white, and blue stuff laying around. I'll use my center for my first groove, and then make one on either side, and that's going to be plenty of lines for a cane this size. Okay, so I'm going to put some really small white snakes in there. I don't want to regret it. I don't want them to just be all ridiculous, crazy, too big. I just want to make some little kind of little marks in it almost like seeds or dots. Okay. Oh, that's really cool. See? Now, if we want to preserve that wavy line, we're going to have to do something about it. We're either going to have to compact it like this, or we're going to have to fill it in. I'm going to compact it because honestly I don't want you to have to build more fill at this point, and I don't want to. And I also don't want too much of one thing up at the top here because I'm going to be putting something in there. So let's push it up and let's form a channel. Pinch, 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 pinch. So now you've got a place to put something, and I think you know what we're going to put in there, right? We've only got one design element that's really left here, and it's this one. What we're going to do today is go ahead and put one together with all of the elements so that you can see how that works, and I think you'll really get a kind of a idea how you want to build cane in your own designs. So here it is reduced, and I've cut it in half. So I've taken my wrapped jelly roll, and I've taken those two pieces and made them into these. And I made one kind of like it out of the unwrapped piece too, by reducing it and cutting it in half, putting it together face to face like this to kind of form a central sort of heart shape. And I'm going to drop this into this hole. So it only needs to be this big. I can form it beforehand or afterwards. I think I really want to get a good fit into that channel, you know, the easy way. So I'm going to go ahead and form this before I drop it into the channel. The last thing I think I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to put a strip of blue in there, because I really don't want the black here and the black here to cause there to be too much splash of black down in the center. And that's why I keep those little pieces around to do that with. And remember how I said that sometimes I like to let them kind of flop over the edges? We'll do that in this one so you can see what I'm talking about. This creates an element of interest in your final cane with this wavy blue loop kind of thing. So into that I'm going to put my new design element. Okay, so our triangle is not pointed on top yet, and that's intentional. It's getting there, but we're still going to add more, and that's why we have all these pieces. So we've created a flat spot, and you see we're just really stacking up a pyramid right now. And that's all we need to do, because we're going to reduce this, and we're going to change it a lot. So here's that piece we made before. I really like it. We haven't done too much with it yet. And I'm going to take a piece of it just like it is, and I'm going to place it on top. I like the bright whiteness of it, bringing that white back into the design. Now you will know as you cane that your decisions with what you're going to put into your design might be completely different than mine, and that's the best thing I could ever hear, because of course that's the point of making art. But having all this stuff available to choose from is also the point, because if you didn't have all these canes made, your composition would be fairly limited by now. Okay, so we're going to take a piece of that the size that it is. Okay, it doesn't need to be any smaller. And we're going to place that on the top of our little pyramid. And I hope you're getting excited now by what's going on here, because, you know, complex caning, the first couple times that I saw it, I was kind of appalled at how hard it was. I just thought, well, forget it. I can never do it. Why do they even have stuff like this that people could never do? You know, it was like this beautiful magic, but it was so forbidding and daunting to me that I almost thought that it was too beautiful. You know, I didn't even want to try it. But you can see that these elements really were not rocket science. And now you have this, and you can imagine when we reduce this and put it into one of these, you know, how really pretty it's going to be. So let's reduce it and let's see what we think. I've reduced this now to the size I want it to be. I've still got plenty of my detail in there, and I want to start thinking about fitting it into a circle. And this is my secret weapon for circle making. And all you really need to know with triangles, unless you want to study geometry at length, is that these need to fit together pretty well in order for this design to spin around. So I draw these and keep them around for lots of different projects, especially a round bowl. And I want to make sure that these are just about the right size to fit together. And I can see right here, it's a little wide. So I can make adjustments before I try to cut it up and make it into one of these. It just saves you a lot of grief, and it's just so easy to do. So I'm sharing that with you. So I'm going to adjust this until it's just this exact size, and then we're going to cut it up and put it together. So you've got your cane slices, and you want to put them together, and you want to carefully match your sides. And you'll see where they go based on the motifs. And let me bring that in for you a little bit. You got the two horn-shaped ones, the fatter triangles, and then the bent horn shapes. So you start to kind of identify these in your mind and use them to match up your design. There we have the same thing. Bent horn, the wide triangle, the straighter horn. So take your time, put your design together, we'll see what we've got. So I put them together in fours. Just a little bit easier that way, kind of gives you less to work with at a time. I'm paying really close attention now to where my center points meet, because that's going to be right in the middle of your bowl, and it's going to be a pretty noticeable area. It forms a little whole little world of its own there. So I'm going to pull that down. I don't want a hole there, so if I need to pull this point down a little bit, I'm going to do that now. Putting your kaleidoscope together is like such a payoff for all this, don't you think? You know, that's why people do it. That's why you know, I said before that people sort of do it kind of prematurely, because they'll have a couple nice elements and they'll go, oh, you know, let's put them together, because God, it's so tempting. But it's best if you wait till you've really got it the way you want it. Gives you a lot more options. That's why I emphasize that so much. Now I've got two fairly flat sides. They look pretty good. If I had to trim this, you know, I would, rather than make it be asymmetrical, but I think it's going to move together okay. It seems okay to me. Kind of a high spot there. Now, when I've put it together like this, and I've really painstakingly formed my pattern, I usually flip it over, because this is the side I've been looking at. This is the side that's going to be more accurate than the other side 9 times out of 10. It's not always true, but you know, you can always turn it back over. But what I usually do, flip it over now, take a look at this side, you know, and start smoothing it out from the back. So we've built our central motif, and now we're ready to construct our bowl. We've got all this different material to work with. We've got pieces that are unreduced from before. We've got pieces that are really still haven't even been touched. We've got altered pieces. We've got halves of other canes. And this is the part where I do challenge you at this point to make yourself a cane. Take 3 pieces that you like and put them together and sharpen them up cut them apart and put them together again. And that's really the most valuable thing that you can do in caning. It's kind of like learning computers. You can take all the computer courses in the world, but it's really sitting there with the computer hitting buttons that gets you where you need to go. And you know, I've said it 1,000 times, it's the joy of it too. So make yourself some canes out of what you've got left. Always cut them in half, save a little aside, so in case you have any experiments that go awry, you still have other pieces to work with. But I think all of it will be really pretty. And in the next class, we're going to take this and apply it to a glass bowl and create something truly spectacular. I'll see you then. So we get to make our bowl. And you know, it's really a nice little payoff for all the hard work that you've done. And I hope you've enjoyed it. Anyway, our bowls come from the dollar store. And I get them in all different sizes. I get whatever they have whenever they've got it, because it changes all the time. You'll see that some of them have writing on the bottom. And you know, sometimes you can't get away from that. I love this size, especially for nuts, and I'm a big nut eater. But, you know, if they've got writing, they've got writing. This one doesn't. And so it's my current favorite. It's just so nice to score a bowl once in a while that doesn't say anything or have any texture on the bottom. So look around, but you figure dollar store, you know, all of these were dollar bowls. I think this was $1 each, and these were 3 or 4 to a pack. So you really can't beat the price on them. And as time goes by, you'll probably find a good source for the ones that you like the best. So we're going to start with this one. I'm going to flip it upside down. And on it I'm going to lay our cane slice. And I'm going to be really careful about which part's going to go down, because that's the part people are going to see is the inside. So take your time centering your motif in your bowl and get it as even as you can. It's really pretty noticeable when it's not. And that's happened to me before. It looked good at the time, you know, then again later it didn't look so good. So take a minute and put your center slice on carefully. And you're also going to want to settle it down with the heat of your hands. And you're going to start right now checking for bubbles. Now believe me, you know, the end of the world is not here if you get a bubble, but you can kind of see it on the bake a little bit more than you would want to. So keep a piercing tool around, and if there's air that you can't press out through the process of laying down the cane, then you can always poke a little hole in it and work it toward the edges. So piercing tool, you're starting to lay out your design. Those are the only things you need right now. So I've applied my central motif, my kaleidoscope, and I'm going to start adding to it. I've got some cane on my table that I've fiddled around with, just like you have, and I'm going to start putting my design together. Let me tell you about madness. Madness is trying to get this thing to come out exactly mathematically perfect. I don't think it's possible unless you really are up on your trigonometry. But as we go up on this design and we get larger toward the top rim of this bowl, it's going to affect the size of what we're putting on there and its fit to the rest of the design. So what I suggest to you is to have at it and make it look pretty. And all the adjustments in the world can be made once you've got your bowl laid out. If you're really crazy about these little pointy things, which I like them a lot, put them where you want them to go. Arrange them at regular intervals. That's enough for now. Their exact thickness, their exact width, their exact space between each other, that can all be worked out. So now I've created a space for something bigger. I can put something that wide into that space if I want that much of one thing. I could put a circle in it and put triangular fill. Lots of things I could do. But I'm going to stick with our triangles right now because I think it's going to make life easier for both of us. So what I've done is I've started putting pieces together. I've got scrap on my table. I've got all kinds of different things that I like. And I'm going to start making them out into shapes that suit my needs for this project. So this tells me that I'm going to need this many slices of a very wide triangle to fill in that spot. As you lay your new cane on the bowl, just center up those pieces. Okay, that's step one. It's pretty warm in here, so if they get a little bit warped on you like they are on me, go ahead and take a minute and straighten them out a little bit. So that's looking good. It just gets prettier and prettier. Honestly, we haven't really killed ourselves too much on exactly getting the design perfect. So as you get closer to the top, you're going to want to start being really cognizant of this lip here. Some of them go straight up without much of a bump, and others don't do it so much. So I'd like to have something small to divide this part from this part. I don't want to just push this band area down into that void. I just don't think it would look intentional enough. So I'm going to look and see what I've got left on my table that I could make for a very small band that's still pretty and still in proportion to divide my last pieces on the bottom half with the top rim. So I've made a little rectangular cane. It's very small, but it's really going to give me plenty of material to go around that little bitty narrow design that I've got there. I'm going to check it for size and most likely flatten it out even more. So it's only got to fill that, the space narrower than my finger between here and here. So we've come back around on that latest little rim, and I want to show you a very common problem. That hole is a little bit bigger than your last piece, so take a thicker piece and squish it in there anyway. Okay, that's not a bad fit, but sometimes you get a pretty good hole, and there's all kinds of things you can do with that, so don't ever sweat that or let it ruin your enjoyment. Okay, so now we've got that last ridge on there, and I'm going to take my time and settle it into this spot so that I have a very clean uniform strip around the last edge of my bowl to put the rest of my edging on, because the top will be pretty noticeable and you just don't want to rush it after all this. So we finish up our bowl, and the last piece around this rim I want to be a really pretty one, of course, and I've taken elements from my table. So just like we talked about at the end of the last video, you want to jump in now. You want to jump in, you want to grab pieces, you want to cut pieces, you want to throw lines into them, and you want to bend them. I want you to just really have a blast with it, and I know that you will. So I've taken these last two pieces that were laying around. You see these elements we've seen before. By the way, this little star flower thing, I think I cut out of the video because it made it too long, but all it is we had that one bullseye cane that was wrapped in a dark color. The dark was a little overpowering, and if you take a ruler or a piece of hanger wire or anything and you make grooves around a bullseye cane like that, it pulls the dark color down into the center and makes just a little impromptu flower. Then you just kind of roll it back together again. So I didn't show you that, but you'll see that it's really fun and easy, and that's all you have to do. Anyway, I made a couple of those out of some spare stuff, and here's the rest of the spare stuff, and I'm going to put them together now, and I'm going to compress them down into a band of about 5/8 of an inch. Pretty soon this is a shape that we wanted. It's a bundle of pretty motifs, and it'll make a beautiful border, and they'll make plenty of it because I checked out the dimensions that we're working with. I'm not a big measurer, but you probably know that if you take the radius times pi times 2 and divide it by the square root of your I'm so sure, I'm just kidding. No, if you just measure around here, you find out how much material you need, and I measured it with this exotic contraption. All right, you know, big deal. And it's 13 inches around, and it's 5/8 wide. So I know I need 13 1-inch pieces or 26 1/2-inch pieces. You know, whatever suits what I've got, whatever suits what I want. So that's what we'll be putting on now. But what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to put it in the fridge. And I want to be sure that you know about that trick. You can put it in the refrigerator or the freezer, because I'm noticing a stickiness today. It's really warm in this room, and I don't have the AC on because the sound is really loud in the video sometimes. So if you get in a warm situation, which I think you will sometimes, everybody does, Go ahead and refrigerate your cane before you cut it, especially when it's really fresh like this. So I'm matching my slices up, and it's really nice to see this piece come together like this. Each of these mirror images side by side here at the seam. And you can go ahead and place them on just touching. They don't have to be squeezed down too much right now, because part of our finishing of the bowl is squeezing them down and making sure they're tight. I've been asked many times if these bowls are secure, you know, if the clay comes off the glass. Well, that's a really good question, because a lot of people use glass as a base so that they can release the design from it, have it stand independently. But covered glass objects are quite durable if you want them to be. There's a certain suction that takes place when the piece is cured and heated. So you'll find that they're quite sturdy, and what I do is I treat them like I would fine china. Treat them like I would something that's art. So I don't throw them in the dishwasher, you know. I don't drive the car over them or anything. I just make a point of hand washing them, hand drying them, and treating them like something that's taken a long time to make. As you can see that that's kind of true. So our project is concluded, and the course is also concluded. And I want to thank you for coming. I've so enjoyed making these tutorials for you. I really enjoy experiencing Millefiori with you. And I hope that you'll enjoy it as much as I do and come back for another course. Our next one will be all scaning, which is sculpting with cane. We talked about it a little bit. And it's something I think you really enjoy. There's an endless possibility to it. And I hope to see you then. Thanks again for coming. Bye-bye.